What if the very thing holding your church back from growth isn't what you've been doing wrong, but what you've been doing right for so long that you can't even see its limitations? What if your church's greatest challenge isn't external opposition, but internal blind spots that have become comfortable traditions for your church? I'm Todd Marshall Hernsberger, founder of Leadwell Solutions, and I'm excited to chat with you today about something that I see all the time. Those sneaky blind spots that keep good churches from becoming great churches. Let's talk about those ministries you keep running because we've always done it that way, and those committees that haven't really accomplished anything meaningful in years. And yes, let's talk about those sacred cows. Those sacred cows that nobody's allowed to question. You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? Just a quick bit about me for those of you who are new here. I have an earned MBA degree from Ohio Christian University, and I'm currently working on my doctorate in strategic and organizational leadership at Liberty University. I wrote a book called The Dysfunctional Leader, and I'm hammering away at my second leadership book right now. I've spent 25 years in the trenches as a pastor in all kinds of churches, small ones, medium-sized ones, and those massive mega churches as well. These days, I'm heavily involved in my home church overseeing Sunday morning ministries and serving as a deacon. I've also sat on several boards of Christian organizations. But here's what really gets me out of bed in the morning. Helping churches like yours cut through the clutter and become more effective. I've watched struggling churches transform into vibrant, growing communities once they've identified their blind spots. That's what I want to chat with you about here over the next few minutes. So let's talk about the reality of blind spots. So you're a pastor or church leader wondering why your church growth has hit a wall. You might have incredible worship, solid biblical teaching, and the friendliest greeters in town. Yet week after week, those attendance numbers just won't budge. What if, and this is a big what if, someone with fresh eyes could walk into your church, ask a few targeted questions about your ministries, and help you see the blind spots that you're too close to see? Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine you've got a children's ministry that was so cutting edge, maybe back when Blockbuster was still around, but you and your team are so invested in it, so close to it, that you can't see it's now completely out of touch with what today's families are looking for. Having a consultant come in, someone who's seen it all but doesn't have the emotional skin in your game, can be absolutely eye-opening. So why is it so hard for churches to spot these issues themselves? I see three big reasons why. First, there's the heart connection. Churches aren't businesses. They're communities where people pour their hearts and souls into ministries. When someone suggests ending the Wednesday night program that Deacon Bob has faithfully led for the past 22 years, it's not just about effectiveness. It feels personal. Like we're saying Deacon Bob's ministry doesn't matter. Second, there's this spiritual mix-up that we fall into. We start thinking that faithfulness to God means keeping programs running forever. But sometimes being truly faithful means having the courage to end something so that something new can begin. Remember, even Jesus talked about new wineskins. Third, there's what I call fish in the water syndrome. It's when you're swimming in it every day, you stop noticing the details. That confusing check-in process for your children's area, that outdated website, that clunky organizational structure. When you see it every day, it just becomes normal. Here's what blind spots really cost you. These blind spots aren't just annoying, they're expensive. Think about it. Every ministry in your church consumes three precious resources, and that's time, money, and people's energy. When those resources are going to programs that aren't really bearing fruit, you're essentially taking them away from opportunities that could really move the needle. There's also the culture tax that you're paying. When a church keeps ineffective systems running year after year, it subtly communicates that maintaining comfort is more important than pursuing your mission. Over time, you develop a culture that resists change and innovation, even good and positive change. And perhaps the most concerning is what I call mission drift. Jesus didn't call us to maintain programs. He called us to make disciples. When we get more attached to our methods than our mission, we've lost the purpose. But here's the good news. When churches have the guts to identify and address their blind spots, amazing things happen. Resources get freed up. Energy gets redirected. New growth becomes possible. I've seen it happen time and time again. So let's talk about the usual suspects, which are common church blind spots. Through many years in ministry, in conversations with many church leaders over the years, I've noticed 7 common blind spots that keep showing up across all types and sizes of churches. Number 1 is outdated first-time guest processes. Many churches are still operating with visitor systems designed back when people actually used the phone books. Today's guests are checking you out online first and expecting smooth, personalized connections. If your process for connecting with newcomers hasn't been refreshed since George Bush was president, you might have a blind spot. Number 2, committee madness. I've visited churches with more committees than active ministries. All these teams and meetings drain energy that could be focused on actually making disciples. And here's a quick question for you. Are your committees helping ministries happen, or have they become ministries themselves? Number 3 is what I call space problems. It's crazy how churches will defend room assignments based on, well, we've always met there, rather than making strategic sense. I've seen thriving kids ministries stuffed into tiny spaces while beautiful, well-furnished rooms sit empty most of the week. Your building should serve your mission and not the other way around. Number 4 is what I call digital disconnect. Your website and social media aren't optional extras anymore. They're your front door. Most people check you out online before ever stepping their feet into your building. Does your digital presence reflect the best of who you are, or is it an afterthought? Number 5, staff structuring issues. As churches grow and change, staff responsibilities often pile up without much thought. Pretty soon, you've got people in the wrong roles not using their God-given gifts because they're stuck in positions that don't match their strengths. When was the last time you really looked at your team structure? Number 6 is budget by habit. When your budget percentages haven't changed in years despite shifting ministry priorities, that's a warning sign. Your budget is actually a theological document. It shows what you truly value regardless of what you say from the pulpit. And the 7th common blind spot is measuring what doesn't matter. Many churches obsess over attendance and offerings but never measure disciple-making effectiveness or community impact or leadership development. What you measure is what you'll focus on improving. Now, as I talk through these common blind spots, maybe you're starting to recognize some in your own church. That awareness is the first step towards positive change. But here's the catch. Identifying blind spots is tough precisely because that's what they are. They're blind spots. By definition, you can't see what you can't see. Fresh eyes make all the difference. This is exactly where an outside perspective becomes gold. Think about it like this. When you stand with your nose against a painting, all you see are the little dots of color. Now step back and suddenly you see the masterpiece. That's what a qualified outside consultant brings. The ability to see the whole picture. Now I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking, we can't afford a consultant, or nobody from outside could possibly understand our unique church culture. But let me push back on that a little bit. First, can you really afford to keep pouring resources into systems that aren't working? The cost of staying stuck almost always succeeds the investment in getting help. Second, a good church consultant doesn't waltz in with cookie cutter solutions. At Leadwell Solutions, I always start by listening and understanding. I respect what makes your church unique while helping you spot where your practices might be misaligned with your mission. We're not talking about changing your theology or values, just making sure your operations actually support what you say that you believe. This is how I can help churches find their blind spots. At Leadwell Solutions, I've developed a straightforward 4-phase approach that honors your church's unique identity while providing practical insights. The first phase comes with what I call discovery. I talk with your staff, key volunteers, and a good cross-section of your congregation. I'll review documents, attend services, and analyze the data that you have collected. I'm looking for disconnects between what your church says it values and what it actually invests in. The second phase is diagnosis. I identify specific blind spots and show you how they're impacting your effectiveness. This isn't about criticism, it's about clarity. I'm helping you see what's been hiding in plain sight. Then we move to the next phase called direction. I work with your leadership team to develop practical strategies for addressing each blind spot. This might mean restructuring ministries, shifting resources, or simplifying processes. Finally, there's the development phase. I just don't drop a report on your desk and disappear. I provide ongoing coaching to help implement changes and navigate the pushback that inevitably comes with transition. Throughout this whole process, I'm your partner, not some know-it-all outsider. My goal isn't to force external solutions, but to help you rediscover your own clarity and effectiveness. Now let me leave you with 3 quick thoughts. First, identifying blind spots isn't about failure. It's about being effective. The best leaders are willing to honestly evaluate whether their methods are serving their mission. Second thought is you don't have to figure this out alone. Bringing in fresh eyes like mine isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of wisdom. Finally, think about the cost of doing nothing. Every day that ineffective systems stay in place is another day of diminished impact. Your church's mission is way too important for that. If you're ready to identify and address those blind spots in your church, I'd love to help you. I offer free initial consultation for church leadership teams. Just head over to ToddMarshallHernsberger.com or shoot me an email at Todd@ToddMarshallHernsberger.com. Remember, Jesus wasn't afraid to challenge the religious status quo of his day. He wasn't interested in tradition for tradition's sake. He was all about advancing God's kingdom. And I believe he's calling church leaders today to that same kind of courageous action. This isn't about being trendy or businesslike. It's about being good stewards of what God has entrusted to us. When we align our operations with our mission, we create space for the Holy Spirit to work in very powerful ways. So reach out today for a no-obligation discovery call. Let's talk about how Leadwell Solutions can help you identify and tackle those blind spots that are holding your church back from its full potential.